Yep, this might have been the best episode of the season. And it's not just because of the action that takes place in this episode. Everything just seems to come together as a story in episode 3. And that one shot might be top 3 one shots of all time. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nerds of the Multiverse channel. So, episode 3 of Daredevil Born Again, season 2, really pushes things forward. Matt and Karen are planning how to infiltrate Red Hook. The Swordsman trial goes on during this episode. We see Fisk overseeing these trials. He knows he's going to win. And it feels like there's no hope almost at all during this episode. But by the end of this episode, the mission that Matt goes on, where we see Daredevil kind of just go off on everybody, that changes things completely. I think that this episode did a lot of things right, and honestly, this might have been the most complete episode so far of the season, just because, my goodness, it didn't miss a beat. Starting off, we have the corruption angle with the Swordsman trial, and this just shows like how rigged the system is now. Fisk has absolute control over everybody, the judges, everyone, and he's going to get what he wants out of all of this, and that's the reason why Matt and Karen and soon to be Jessica Jones and White Tiger and everybody's having to do what they're doing, because they know that if they don't do anything, Fisk is going to win, and he's never going to lose because he's in power and he has all the power. So that was pretty cool to see. Just, it really sets it up. Like, yeah, even the judges are bought by him, because the swordsman's trial was already decided before it even started, and it was a tribunal. He had 3 officials sitting there. Basically, Kirsten had barely any time at all to get this case together. She met with him for 15 minutes, and it just was absolutely atrocious to see what they did. But, it's Kingpin. What do you expect? But there is no justice here, and it just makes everything feel that much more dangerous, and that's why we need vigilantes. There's also a lot of tension this episode between Matt and Karen, and it's more based on the methods of how they're going to go about doing this, because Karen has started to think more along the lines of like what Frank believes is like, man, maybe we should just take these people out because there's no stopping them. They just keep coming back. And Matt's like, killing is not how we're going to win this. You can tell that they both still are trying to win this fight, but they are starting to have 2 different ideologies of how to get there. Something else, we've talked about this every week so far, Heather is spiraling downward, and we can see that more and more. She's not in this episode a ton, but the first time we see her in this episode, she's like hammering the wall, and what she does, it puts a crack in the wall, and that crack sends her into like some type of panic attack. And it's so cool because in that moment, not that she's having a panic attack, but it's so cool because in that moment, she opens up her drawer and she has Muse's mask in her apartment. I think it's all but confirmed that she's going to be the next Muse. If they did something crazy and like somebody else ends up becoming Muse, I think it'd be insane. Heather Glenn is going to be Muse, and it's going to be insane to see it. Honestly, I don't know if it'll be this season because we only have 5 episodes left, including tonight's episode, and I don't know how much they're going to fit in that time frame. We might see her become Muse by the end, and it sets up season 3, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. So, but Heather Glenn, my goodness, this is going to be an awesome storyline between her and Matt. It's setting up to be something very, very good. I'm very, very pleased with that. Also, if you've not checked out the theory video where we called that, check it out. Let's talk about some standout moments from this episode, for me at least. Hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, the best episode so far of the season has been episode 3 for me, and a big reason being, I love when they put one-shot fights in the film. ONERs are one of my favorite things about watching Daredevil because it's just so unique to that show, and they have them every season. Sometimes they have a couple. This is the first one of the season so far, I believe, at least from my memory. But you always feel like, how are they going to top the next one? In my personal opinion, I still think that the best ONER is from season 3 in the prison. But the one from this episode is definitely a top one for me. I loved seeing the dynamic between Daredevil and the Swordsman fighting the anti-vigilante task force officers and rescuing all those prisoners who they had. It was such an amazing fight. The choreography was cool. I liked getting to see the Swordsman in action and not just like in a clip from a video that we see on the BB report. And we haven't really seen a ton of it since Hawkeye, which that was brief as well. So it's been really, really cool to see the Swordsman. The Swordsman has probably been the one character of this season so far that I'm like, wow, they keep building him. But the choreography in this fight was ridiculous. I like that we get to see Matt use the billy clubs even more. He is absolutely brutal. He's breaking people's legs. He's cracking people in the face. He's throwing like these metal rods through people's shoulders. Like, the Swordsman kicks some major tail in this, and absolutely just a phenomenal scene. Phenomenal scene. And the one shots are always special. So that carried the episode for me, in my opinion, best part of the episode. However, I also really enjoyed the Swordsman's trial. I just thought it was cool. Like I said, the Swordsman's kind of been a character that this season I've been like, wow, I have a lot more interest, and I'm growing a lot more interest in the character. And the trial was cool just to see how corrupt everything is. And just, he already knew it going into it. He's like, wow, yeah, he's like, this was inevitable. And Kirsten's like trying to apologize to him, and he's like, yeah, it's fine. This was going to happen regardless of if you defended me or not. But very, very cool scene. It was kind of disturbing in a way, just like seeing how evil the system is. But this tells you just how much influence that Fisk has. Also, another scene that was kind of, and that's not meant to just be like a funny joke. This is insane. This was like a mind-blowing moment the first time I watched it. I've seen it twice now. But the end, right after Matt and Karen and Angela and the Swordsman and all the prisoners escape Red Hook, and Powell calls Kingpin and lets him know what happened. And Kingpin is like, go ahead, you know what to do. And they blew up the Northern Star that had all of those workers on it. And Kingpin is going to frame Daredevil for doing that. It's going to seem like Daredevil is a terrorist, which they've been framing him like that all season. But just when we think that we get a win, we push the edge a little bit, this happens. And it's just like it you could see it coming from a mile away. But to be honest, that scene, like what was going to happen, I did not put it together in the beginning of oh, all these men are not going to make it off that boat. Absolutely insane ending to episode 3. And I cannot. Sometimes it just makes you so mad seeing just like, man, Kingpin is always ahead of the game. And I think that's what makes it really cool about Daredevil too, because he always ends up having to figure out how to get ahead of Kingpin's game and just waiting for a slip up. So that's pretty cool. I was very, very pleased with this episode. Those were my 3 standout moments for it. So now let's talk about the character spotlight. So far, I've given 2 each week since we've started this. I'm going to give 1 this week. And that character spotlight, it goes to the Swordsman. The Swordsman, he really stood out in this episode to me. Obviously, we had his trial. That's what we've been talking about this entire review so far. The trial was great. Just seeing his demeanor and all of it, seeing how he's kind of just like, he's still making jokes. He's still kind of just like, yeah, it's whatever. This is going to happen regardless. That was cool. Seeing him get to fight in this episode was awesome. I really enjoyed that, like I said, during the one shot. And Tony Dalton plays this character so well. I've found a new respect for him. And, I've really enjoyed his character in the MCU. And I hope we get more swordsmen in the future of the MCU, whether that be more Daredevil, whether that be second season of Hawkeye, if it ever happens. I'd like to see him interact with Kate some more, and interact with Hawkeye some more, interact with Spider-Man possibly. Maybe he'll be in Brand New Day or maybe a future Spider-Man film. But the Swordsman has been phenomenal so far, and I've really, really enjoyed this episode, seeing him and getting to know him more and just seeing what he's about. So, Swordsman, absolutely phenomenal. Let's talk some theories for this episode, though, because there's definitely a few things that are sticking out. Number 1 for this particular episode, is Daniel Blake going to be the Rose? So in the comics, Fisk has a couple of sons, but one of them ends up becoming the character called the Rose, and he is a villain. Right now, we've kind of just seen Daniel growing to be the, like, the protege, the heir to Kingpin, and he's learning everything he can from him. He still messes up, he still makes mistakes, he still has some good in him, and I think that there's some potential for Fisk getting taken down at the end of the season. Daniel probably either gets taken down with him, or something, or he's upset about what happens to Fisk, and it kind of turns him to, like, I'm gonna pick up where my leader left off. So a couple things that kind of hint towards that, though. Throughout episode 2, I believe, there were roses everywhere throughout that episode. They just kept planting them. There was some when Vanessa was having her dream about Bullseye. There's some all throughout the episode. So roses was a very big, just kind of like, it was in your face almost. And if you didn't think about it too much, you wouldn't have noticed. But yeah, there was a ton of roses. But also, in this episode, when the mayor and the governor were having their dinner, and like all of the people were there, Vanessa and Daniel and Buck and Heather and all of them, Buck is explaining to Heather, like he's referring to everybody who's there as kind of like the king's court. He's referring to like a royal community. So like Kingpin's obviously the king, Vanessa's the queen, and stuff like that. And when he talks about Daniel, he calls him the heir apparent. And that just kind of felt like a direct setup. Like, even if people aren't catching it, it's like, oh yeah, like, we know that Daniel was like under him, and he's like, he's trying to learn as much as he can, because he wants to just do what he can and do the best he can for Kingpin. But I think that was kind of like a subtle hint. It's like, yeah, we're gonna get him as a villain potentially in the future, maybe in the season 3, season 4, however long it goes. But Daniel could end up being a real villain, and I think Michael Gandolfini would do a great job of doing it. So that's something just to kind of be on the watch for. I think that Daniel Blake might end up being the Rose. Then obviously we have Daredevil being framed. I'm pretty sure the end of this season is going to end with Matt getting arrested. Kingpin's going to go down. He won't be the mayor anymore. I know that for a fact. But I don't think that Matt is going to get unscathed either. I think Matt's going to end up getting arrested at some point at the end of the season. And it kind of sets up it might even set up Brand New Day, because there's a prison in Brand New Day with the hand ninjas in Spider-Man. I don't know if Spider-Man's breaking out Daredevil. I don't know if Daredevil's going to be in prison still for season 3 if he's not in Brand New Day. But there are some comic storylines that we could talk about in some future videos about that, because we have the Devil in Cell Block D, where Matt is in prison. And there's some hints that Charlie Cox has said recently, so it's a potential that we might be getting Matt arrested at the end of the season, and I don't know if it's for, sinking the Northern Star. I don't know what it's going to be for, but that's a potential to think about as well. Matt going to prison. Overall, though, for this episode, out of a 10, I would rank this episode a 9.6 out of 10. My favorite episode so far this season, just a slight edge over episode 1, but I've enjoyed the season so much so far, and I think it's been really, really good. This episode really balanced characters and action and just storyline, and I think that it's all coming together very, very nicely, and I'm looking forward to episode 4 tonight. But I want to hear from you. What did you guys think about the episode? What was your favorite part? Who's your favorite character? What was your favorite moment of this episode? And do you think Daniel Blake is going to become the Rose? If you are watching Daredevil Born Again every single week, make sure you stay tuned, because I will be doing reviews every single week covering this show. And with all that being said, if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. And if you want to see more Marvel content, such as news, rankings, theories, lore videos, gaming videos, breakdowns, and more outside of this content, also make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Also, for social media, I am on TikTok at Nerds of the Multiverse, on Instagram at The Nerds of the Multiverse, and on X at Nerds of the Mult1. And if you have not already subscribed to the Nerd Bros Podcast YouTube channel, make sure you do so. It's a podcast between myself and the Nerds of Ren. It's Marvel, it's Star Wars, it's DC, and it's every Tuesday night. And make sure you stay tuned for that, because you do not want to miss it. But with all that being said, I love you 3000. And I will see you in the next video.